The whole story of Easter is about what happened to Jesus 3 days after he was crucified by the Romans in 30 AD. The Easter story is divided into 4 parts: the Last Supper, Judas betraying Jesus, the Crucifixion, and the Resurrection. The story begins with the Last Supper. Read the book of Matthew 26:17-30, Mark 14:12-25. Luke 22:7-23 during your leisure hours, but we are going to narrate the entire story for you in this video. The Last Supper tell a story of a wonderful invitation from Jesus to receive his gift. The Last Supper took place on the first day of Passover, or the festival of unleavened bread. Jesus sent his disciples ahead into the city to prepare a meal to celebrate Passover. Passover is the remembrance of Israel being freed from slavery to Egypt, and specifically when the angel of death passed over the homes of the Israelites that had lamb's blood over the doors. As the disciples reclined and ate dinner with Jesus, he explained to them that one of the 12 of them would soon betray him. One by one the disciples denied that it would be them, including Judas, who would be the betrayer. Jesus responded that the person who betrays him will have a terrible fate, and that indeed, it was Judas. Jesus prayed and thanked God for the meal. He then broke the bread and shared the wine with the disciples and explained to them how the bread was a symbol of his body, broken for them, and the wine a symbol of his blood, which would be poured out for their sins to be forgiven. This is where the Church's tradition of communion comes from. After the meal, Jesus became like a servant and washed the feet of the disciples. Peter did not feel right having Jesus wash his feet, but Jesus said that he was doing it to be an example to them. Now the disciples would be able to wash each other's feet, meaning they could be servants to all. The Bible story of Judas betraying Jesus is found in all 4 Gospels. This powerful story is well known in Christian theology as one of the most significant events of disloyalty. There are several explanations as to why Judas betrayed Jesus, including bribery and demonic possession, that vary among the Gospel accounts. The Gospels imply that Jesus anticipated and permitted Judas's betrayal. One interpretation is that Jesus allowed the betrayal because it would allow God's plan to be achieved, and another that regardless of the betrayal, Jesus was eventually fated for crucifixion as part of God's plan. Read John 18:1-13, Luke 22:1-6, Luke 22:47-54, Matthew 26:47-56, Mark 14:43-50. During the meal of the Last Supper, Jesus predicts that one of you will betray me, referring to Judas. Judas leaves the supper and goes to the Roman authorities, who are looking to arrest Jesus. He accepts a bribe of 30 silver and agrees to take them to Jesus. Judas knew that Jesus and the disciples would go to a garden near Jerusalem and led the soldiers there, stating, "Whoever it is I kiss, he is the one, take him into custody, and lead him away under guard." Judas sees Jesus with his disciples and approaches him. "Greetings, Rabbi," Judas says, and he kisses Jesus very lightly. "Fellow, for what purpose are you present?" Jesus responds. Matthew 26:49-50. Answering his own question, Jesus says, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" As the soldiers move toward Jesus, the apostles recognize what is happening. "Lord, should we strike with the sword?" they ask. Luke 22:49. Before Jesus can respond, Peter uses one of the 2 swords that the apostles have and attacks Malchus, a servant of the high priest, cutting off his right ear. Jesus caresses the ear of Malchus, healing the wound. He then teaches an important lesson, telling Peter, "Return your sword to its place, for all those who take up the sword will perish by the sword." Jesus is willing to be captured, for he explains, "How would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must take place this way?" The crucifixion of Jesus is recorded in the New Testament books, known as the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. This Bible story is the central summary of the saving gospel of Jesus. Jesus had prophesied of his death in Matthew. From that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and on the third day be raised to life. Jesus understood that his life would be required as a sacrifice for the sins of man. At the height of his ministry and miracles, many Jews came to believe in Jesus as Messiah, the Son of God. Jewish leaders feared Jesus because of his growing followers. With the help of Judas Iscariot, Roman soldiers arrested Jesus and he was put on trial for claiming to be the king of the Jews. According to Roman law, the punishment for rebellion against the king was death by crucifixion. The crucifixion of Jesus was a part of God's plan from the very beginning of the birth of Jesus. The sin of mankind would require a sacrifice. The sinless life of Jesus was lived and given so that man could receive salvation and eternal life in heaven. Extraordinary events marked the death of Jesus. The sky was completely dark for 3 hours as Jesus hung on the cross. At the moment of his last breath, the earth shook, the temple curtain split from top to bottom, and the tombs of saints opened and their bodies raised from the dead. The resurrection of Jesus Christ is the foundation of the Christian faith. Without the resurrection, the belief in God's saving grace through Jesus is destroyed. When Jesus rose from the dead, he confirmed his identity as the Son of God and his work of atonement, redemption, reconciliation, and salvation. The resurrection was a real, literal, physical raising of Jesus' body from the dead. Read Matthew 28, Mark 16, Luke 24, and John 20. Jesus was arrested, tried, and found guilty of claiming to be a king. His body was hung on a cross between 2 thieves. After his death, Jesus' body was wrapped in linen cloths and placed in a tomb with a large stone rolled across the opening. On the 3rd day, an early Sunday morning, Mary Magdalene and another Mary came to the tomb and found it empty. Sitting on the rolled-away stone was an angel of the Lord who told them to not be afraid because Jesus had risen. As the women left to tell the disciples, Jesus Christ met them and showed them his nail-pierced hands. Both the Old and the New Testament speak of the truth of Jesus being raised from death. Jesus testified of his resurrection before he died on the cross and his disciples witnessed his body after the resurrection. Both scriptures prophesize the resurrection and testify of its reality after Christ's death. If you like this video, please subscribe to this channel and hit the like button. Thanks for watching and happy Easter everyone.